Hello, class. Today, and for the next 2 days, we will be discussing Galileo test prep. That means that at the end of this week, we are going to be taking the Galileo test. So, let's get some key information out right from the start. First, you will get an improvement grade. This means that I'm not going to grade you on every question on the Galileo test, but it does mean that you are going to be getting a grade based on your personal improvement. Let me show you how that works. On average, my students get about 10 out of 44, 45 on the first Galileo test. This is normal because you haven't learned anything yet. You shouldn't really get very many correct. In fact, these 10 were probably a mixture of you knew things early and good guessing. So, what I'm going to do is give you a goal of plus 5 questions. Okay, so whatever you got last time, you need to get 5 better. And that will give you your score on the new test. So if you got 10 right last time, I'm going to be grading you out of 15. This does mean there's an opportunity for some extra credit and that you guys will be graded based on your personal growth. You will be getting a score for your work, so you need to show your work. Again, are we asking you to show work on all 44 questions? No, because you do not know how to do all 44 questions. Therefore, your teachers will look at how many questions there are, and we will be expecting you to show your work for, look, at least 15 questions. So whatever your goal is to get correct, you'd better show that many questions on your work or more. Okay? We need to see not only that you can get the correct answer, but that you can show your work. Sometimes this will mean that you just write down on the graph, right? Because sometimes you're just looking at a graph on a computer and there's nothing really to show. That's not what I mean when I say show your work. Please do not draw the graph. Do not waste your time writing out big long word problems or drawing the graph on your piece of paper. That is wasteful and not showing your work. Okay, if you looked at a graph, saw the answer, you write it down, then you would just write this on your paper. Does that make sense? Don't worry too much about this because as we go through our prep, I will be modeling exactly how I want you to be showing your work on your paper so that you'll know exactly what you need to do. Okay, so yes, show your work for as many as you can, but don't stress about it. I'll show you how to do it. Last thing we're going to talk about before we dive into questions is take the time. This test will have 44 questions on it. So if you finish in 5 minutes, I know you have not taken the test seriously, and I'll send you back to your desk and we'll ask you to show your work and do it correctly. Okay? A 44 question test should take you both days and most of the time. So please do not rush through it. Take the time to do it correctly. All right, let's get into actual questions. As you know, the Galileo is on a computer. So you will be looking at questions on your computer. Here's an example of something that you will see. And as we go through it, you'll look at the computer, read the question, and then we'll be going back to our piece of paper so that we can take notes and show what we're doing. So let's get the screen split so we can see both at the same time. Okay, this is pretty good. As you can see, I have my piece of paper and I have what you'll be seeing on the computer screen when you look at it. So we're going to go ahead and read the question and decide what we need to do, and then I'll show you how to show work on your paper. Number 1 says, select the cars consuming 1 gallon of gas per 42 miles. Now what I hope is that per right there, you immediately think, oh, unit rates. This makes a lot of sense. Okay, so what we want, And this is exactly how I would show my work, by the way. I would write the number 1. I like to circle it so I don't get it confused with my other math. Okay, now I'm not going to write the question. That's a waste of time and effort. I'm looking and I see that I want 1 gallon of gas per 42 miles. Okay, so in other words, I have a unit rate of 42 miles per 1 gallon. This is me organizing my thoughts. Yes, I really would write this down on a test. Next, I'm going to go through each of our choices. I've got car A, B, C, and D, and I see that we have a different amount of gallons being used per mile. So I could do a couple different things at this point. I could create a chart, like a T-chart. Some of you really like T-charts, and I could organize my data that way, gallons and miles. Or, what method I'm going to choose, I'm going to just take car A, and I'm going to take 68 miles per 1.5 gallons, and I'm going to divide top to bottom so that I can see what the unit rate should be. I'll do this for B, okay, where it has 40 miles per 0.2 gallons. I'll do the same thing for, C is next, 21 over 0.5, and for D, where it's 126 miles per 3 gallons. All right, so as you can see, I'm going to have to check each of these and see which one matches. I don't know if you noticed, but in the test question, it said select the cars, plural. There might be more than one right answer, so we need to be very careful of that. Okay, pause the video, do the division, and we'll come back and check your answer. Here we have our answers. When I divided, car A gets 45.33333 miles per gallon. Car B is getting 200 miles a gallon. I want to own that car. That sounds great. Car C gets 42 miles per gallon, and car D also gets 42 miles per gallon. So for question number 1, your answers would be both C and D. You want to be super careful with this type of question when you're taking the test, because if you only answered C and forgot about D, you would still get the question wrong, which I think is not cool, but that's the way computers work. You have to get all of the correct answers in order for it to be right. So be careful. Awesome. Let's look at number 2. Okay, here we go, number 2. Now on my paper right here, I'm going to just go down, write the number 2, and circle it. Okay, this way I'm keeping my work nice and organized. I'm going to require this so that, 1, you can go back and review questions if you need to at the end of the test. Also so that I, as your teacher who can't read minds, need to be able to read your work. So now that we've got our paper ready, let's read the question and see what we need to do. This question says, what value for x makes the 2 ratios equivalent? Our first ratio is 1/5, got the colons here, over 3/4. Now, we, in this class, have been writing our ratios like a fraction. So really, we have 1/5 over 3/4. I know they're fractions, don't freak out. Okay? And we're going to set that equal to the other ratio, which is x colon 1. So x over 1. Okay, this should look super duper familiar to you. We need to find out what value for x makes these 2 ratios equivalent. They're just showing a ratio with a colon, and we're showing it with a fraction. You can cross multiply either way. Okay, so everybody take a minute and cross multiply. Yes, we're going to multiply us some fractions. Mark, set, go. So after I cross multiplied 1/5 times 1 gives me 1/5. And 3/4 times x gives me 3/4. Now, we're not quite done yet. We need to get my x alone by dividing by 3/4. Now this part, you are going to need to divide some fractions. So I'm going to rewrite it over here. 1/5 divided by 3/4. Okay, now on the count of 3, everybody shout out, how do you divide fractions? 1, 2, 3. Keep, change, flip. Good. I hope you said it with me. Otherwise, I feel like Dora the Explorer. All right. Divide fractions. Come back. Go. All right. Keep the first fraction. Change to multiplication. Flip over the second fraction. And you should get 4/15 as your answer for x. Is that one of our choices? Yes, it is. That is option B. Answer is B. B only. Ta-da! Moving right along. Let's look at number 3. All right. I wrote number 3 down. I circled it. My paper's ready to go. So the question, again, says, what value for x makes these two ratios equivalent? Aha! This is exactly like the last question we did, where we've got two ratios that are equivalent. We need to set it up and cross multiply. Go ahead and do this one on your own and let's double check. Go! And we're back. So hopefully, just like last time, you set up two equal fractions with the fraction bar in the place of the colon so we can cross multiply. You cross multiplied and got 1/4 is equal to 3/5 x. We had to divide by 3/5 on both sides. Again, because they're fractions, I'm going to keep, change, flip, and my final answer was 5/12, which again is letter B. Okay, gotta be super careful to make sure that you're not choosing C, okay, because the order of your fraction is going to matter very much. All right, great job. Let's look at number 4. I've got my paper ready, number 4 written and circled. I'm ready for the question. And look, it's another one. Looks like we're going to cross multiply again. Let's do this. All right, so we set up our proportion. We changed it from having that decimal colon to a fraction, so it looks like the proportions we're used to. We cross multiplied and got this. We divided by 5/3. Again, keep, change, flip, and we got 3/45. But wait a minute, that's not an option. Shoot, what do I need to do? Okay, hopefully you said reduce your answer. Thank you so much. We need to reduce this fraction because it's not one of our choices over here. Okay, now hopefully you realize, looking at our options over there, that I can divide the top and bottom by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 45 divided by 3 is 15. Is that one of our options? Ah, there it is. It's A. Good. Okay, we have to make sure that your answer matches. Don't freak out if it doesn't. Just look back over your work and see what happened. In this case, we had only forgotten to reduce. All right, let's keep going. Number 5. Okay, my paper's set up. We're ready for number 5. And let's read. A road rises vertically, up and down, 6 feet for every 100 feet traveled horizontally, side to side. What is the rate of change in vertical feet compared to horizontal feet as a car travels this road? So I'm going to set up our rate, which looks just like a fraction, with vertical over horizontal. Now, as you can tell, ours looks different than all the choices. Again, that's just because we need to reduce this answer. Let's do that. So we reduced by dividing by 2, top and bottom, got 3/50, and that is A. Ta-da!